It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains. I'm your host, Kyle Sirik, joined by two of our guys today. We got Jake Galley and Stat Matt Robinson. James is gone, but I have a feeling this might be the last Wednesday James is gone. The commitment that he's had is like officially over tonight. So, and he's going to be on the YouTube on Friday. So make sure to check that out too. We'll get the James content in and he'll be back with us next week, but we're going to work with the crew we got. And we're going to be talking some NBA today. Before we get to that, I just want to check in with my guys, Jake, Matt. How we feeling?
I've been better. There's a reason that we're at home, and we'll keep that between us. But yeah, I mean, it's been a day. It's been a day. A little bit of running around, but I'm glad we're here. Glad we're talking to the Straight Facts listeners.
Matt?
Yep, I'm focusing my positive energy because the Sixers are really, really good.
All right. So. Well, we're going to get into some Sixers a little bit later, but we're going to start off with, I like this segment. I think it was James that brought this up. I like this segment. It's going to be what no one's talking about in the NBA, but probably should be. Some things are going under the radar now as we're getting towards, that home stretch of the season and into the playoffs, and they might pop up on us real quick, right? We got some good teams to talk about that's kind of flying under the radar with all the recent NBA news. So we're going to start with one of those teams. And that team actually happens to be the number one seed in the East. And no one's really talking about it. The Miami Heat are the number one seed in the East. Not only that, but they're showing dominance in the East. They're 7-3 on the season against the teams that are 2, 3, and 4 in the East. That's the Sixers, Bucks, and Bulls. So educate the listeners. Educate them on the Miami Heat because this team is legit. And we seem to forget they were in the finals 2 years ago and pretty much have the same exact team except maybe slightly better. So what do we got to talk about the Heat?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think I brought it up on the show earlier in the year. I mean, like ultimate under the radar team, maybe even on par with the Bucks of last year, where, they have this dominant play. They have a guy playing at a really high level, which for this Miami Heat team is Jimmy Butler this year. 21.4 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 5.7 assists. He took a little bit of a dip, but granted, he's been playing with not the usual cast. And that's what's been so impressive. As you read off, like without Bam Adebayo, they're 17-8 this year. Without Jimmy Butler, they're 13-7. Without Hero, 9-3. You keep going down the list like Lowry, Tucker, winning records with both of those guys out as well. They're a team that doesn't necessarily have one point where like we stop this and the rest of their offense falls apart. I think for Philadelphia, for Brooklyn, for Milwaukee, they all kind of have those hubs of, you stop Giannis, you're probably going to be okay. You stop KD, stop Embiid, maybe you think you're going to be all right. There's no easy out with the Miami Heat, and that's what's been so impressive to me.
Right, and that's what I want to get on too, because the point I want to make about the Heat, and I was going to make, is that this team's makeup really covers everything, right? They're all different, very different players that can really do everything, right? You have your true point guard in Kyle Lowry. You have your, in a way, do-it-all superstar in Jimmy Butler. Not that he's like the best player in the league, but on all facets of the court and his, confidence, energy, competitiveness, you can go even the mental stuff. He really can provide anything. You have shooter Duncan Robinson. You kind of have this. I think Bam is kind of like the like maybe not a true center, but kind of the culmination of this new age center, and he's really good at it. A really athletic guy that can bang down low, needs to work on the jump shot a little bit. So I think they really have all the pieces here, and I think that's a good point. That where would you shut down this Heat team? Like if you had to pick, are you zoning in on a Jimmy Butler, or I mean, are you going to get beaten another way?
They're the definition of a team that you can't pinpoint any weakness in them. There's nothing that when you're strategizing in a playoff series coming up, like, ooh, where can we attack here? Where can we attack there? Where can we attack there? And that's why they're such a good team this regular season. And that's why they're going to end up with the 1 seed, because they're just, if anyone has an off night or is injured, as evidenced by the records that we just read out, they have other players to pull up the slack. Everyone on the team, you can basically trust to score when it matters. Everyone on the team can rebound. They have 7 players that average at least 4 rebounds, which is really high. Just, you can't take a break, because it's that Jimmy Butler mentality that he's instilled in the team of play every possession 100%. And the only thing that can beat them is superstars, which will be the test they all have in the playoffs. But as a regular season team, they're fantastic.
Yeah, to answer your question, Kyle, about how I would go about stopping them, I think you have to shut down if we're talking about focal points and maybe where the first domino goes to fall, you have to shut down the shooters coming off screen or off motion, into the corner. Harrow, Robinson. That's really, in terms of like where their bread is buttered. You look at 3-point attempts, they're 14th. 3-pointers made per game, they're 7th, which makes them first in terms of 3-point percentage for a team. And then, as Matt mentioned, on the defensive end, they're a heck of a rebounding team, number 1 rebounding team in the NBA. They don't turn over the ball much, they don't foul much, and they are first in field goals attempted against. So they're really holding teams to like a few shot attempts per possession. It just spells for like a hellish 7-game playoff series for really any team in the East.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned the shooting, and that's how you stop them. And really, Duncan Robinson's having the worst year of the past 3 since he's become like a relevant player. Not by much, but his 3-point percentage is officially under 40% now, which hasn't been true as of late. So, I mean, this team, Matt mentioned one thing that I'm going to agree with him on it. Matt said that's why they're going to get the 1 seed. Matt thinks the Miami Heat are going to be the 1 seed at this point in the season, Jake, because I tend to agree with Matt. Do you see that playing out? You think Miami gets the 1 seed?
I think so. Something we were discussing off camera is how Brooklyn being in the play-in tournament might skew what teams are trying to do towards the end of the year. It's no secret that NBA teams will unabashed tank and try and change their positioning. The Clippers did it last year, and I think the year before that, where end of year you just pull the bottom out to get to the preferred matchup if you can. And with the Nets potentially being the 7 or 8 seed, if you're the 1 or 2 seed, you have to either face them in the first or second round. So assuming that they win and, go on through. So I do think that they probably are the best regular season team. Over 7 games, I think in the playoffs, superstar talent wins out. That's why I would pick the Bucks or Philly or maybe even Brooklyn before them. I don't know about Brooklyn anymore, but those other two teams for sure.
Right. And I kind of think what we saw from the Sixers sitting Harden in the Heat game, I know it was a back-to-back, but not conceding the 1 seed, but maybe like accepting the fact if the Heat do get the 1 seed, that's fine. Because you look at that game, it's one of the most pivotal games like on the schedule in terms for seeding, and you sit Harden that one. So we'll see how that goes.
Also, you don't want to show your hand potentially.
That's a big one as well.
You would be shocked. You would be shocked how often that happens. It happens all the time in big games.
All right. Well, we'll move on from the Heat. I think people are going to start talking to him. Just coming into the playoffs. The Heat are going to start getting that attention. We're going to move to another one, and this is a team that is talked about, but maybe the stats really haven't been too much. And this is the fact that the Nets are 9th in the Eastern Conference. And not only are they 9th, but they're 3-17 in their last 20 games. That's ridiculous. They're now under 500. Good stat in here that no team in NBA history has ever won the finals after having an under 500 record through 60 games. So obviously Ben Simmons coming back. We just saw Kyrie go for 50 last night, I think, against the Hornets. So let me actually scratch that. They're 4-17 in the last 21 because I don't think that includes last night game. Still horrible. So do we see it turning around for the next? I think obviously it will, but can you come back from how poorly they've played just by adding Ben Simmons?
Just by adding Ben Simmons.
It's by adding Kevin Durant. because when
Right.
they were the 1 seed in the East at 22-9 when Durant went out, and then they collapsed. They were the worst team in the NBA during those 20 games where he didn't come back, and now he's back. So
They still lost the first two without him, though. So I mean, there's still struggles here in Brooklyn.
Yeah, they're not a perfect team, but
Right.
for me, I really hope that we don't have to play them in the first round. That's
Right.
the way I'm viewing it. I don't want to like. I'm more rooting I'm rooting for Brooklyn to get the 9th or 10th spot in the East, because then they can't get anything higher than the 8th seed. So that's where my main rooting interest is, because Kevin Durant is just he's so good.
Yeah.
And we remembered how great he was last year in the playoffs. We remembered how great he was the first 30 games of the season, and then he was hurt, and everyone, the Nets doom and gloom. And then they did the trade, and it was like, and then they lost more because Durant and Simmons weren't playing. They're such a good team on paper, and Durant's proven with playoff moments that he can just will them. So I wouldn't pick them to get out of the East, but anyone who would be surprised that to happen is fooling themselves.
Right. Everyone wants to go, the Heat, or excuse me, the Nets. 9th seed in the East. They stink. They added Ben Simmons. I don't want to play in first round. I don't want him on my side of the bracket. Like, and I'm guilty of this. Like, look, in my opinion, you add the biggest loser in NBA history. You want to talk about losing culture. You add that guy to your team, and now you're going to force him to be shoehorned into a lineup to try and acclimate himself when in the most, like he could, realistically, he could be playing with a full strength lineup single digit amount of times before you are playing playoff games. For the Nets. So that's like, I don't care who you are. That's a tough task for any three superstars you're sticking together. And obviously, I don't know if we want to stick superstar in Ben's name. He's a great player, but like, even if he does fit their team well, it still takes some time, and you're going up against teams in the play-in tournament that, depending on where you're at, it could be one game. It could be, if like Matt said, you're a 9 or 10 seed and you come out flat, it may not go well for Brooklyn. So
yeah, I want to hit on something you just said too. Even if it's a good fit, right? Because yes, this does look on paper a good fit for the Brooklyn Nets, but on what team? Like, would Ben Simmons not be a good fit on paper, right? One of the best defenders in the league and a playmaking passer. Any team in the league can use that. The issue here with me comes with the fact that Ben Simmons has always needed the ball in his hands and has always been a detriment when that, one, either hasn't happened, or two, he plays bad, right? He hasn't been some guy that can play off the ball. On paper, yeah, you want him to play defense and start to break, and he can be minimized to that role, and he would be a phenomenal teammate on this team. I'm not sure that's exactly the role he's going to play, because that isn't the role he's ever played in his career. So I think that's interesting to look when he does come back, because on paper, great fit, sure. The best defender in the league at times. Yeah, that's going to be a best fit on any team. So I'm not sure this is going to work out how people think it is.
They're going to have 10 games played together. It takes 10 games to learn how to talk to Ben Simmons so he doesn't go cry about what you said after the game. Like, whatever. Like,
also, they won't have a chance to do like a ironing out series, because they, like, if they were like a 1 seed or 2 seed, they can get their chemistry together when they're playing Charlotte in the first round or Toronto in the first round.
To the fire this year.
They go no time to acclimate, just sight read essentially.
Yep.
This is where Brooklyn could scare me. One, I think the Goran Dragic's pickup was very good. I think that could be a little underrated. He hasn't played recently, still a good player. But say Cam Thomas can be a legitimate bench scorer here, right? Because this is what it is with these top-heavy teams. Oftentimes, they lack the help needed. And this is, without a doubt, maybe the most top-heavy team in the league besides the Lakers right now. Say Cam Thomas gets confidence in the playoffs, start playing well, right? Say Goran Dragic is a great bench piece and, has a playoffs, not like the one he had on Miami that year they made the finals, but a good, competent playoff. If this team starts to get more depth and, more well-rounded, then I think the Nets can seriously like be a problem. But as of right now, I'm going to stick with you. Was it you that said it, Jake, that you wouldn't pick them to come out of the East right now? Or I think that was Matt.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't either.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick with that now, but it could get dangerous.
Well, yeah, it definitely could. And the only thing I'll say, I like Cam Thomas a lot. If you're relying on Cam Thomas in a playoff series, it's a lot like the 76ers last year relying on Maxey in a playoff series well, I mean, not in a huge role, but even if it's in like a, 18 minutes,
right,
16 minutes type spot where we need you to get 8 points in that time frame, that's still a big role in the playoffs.
Exactly. But at the same time, this team is already built to win playoff games. I'm saying where this can get scary, but we'll move on to the next thing no one's really talked about, and that's the Clippers. The Clippers are getting a little hot. I know they've been sticking in the bottom of the Western Conference, but you have to remember, no Paul George, no Kawhi. Obviously, Kawhi's probably not going to play this season. I mean, that's pretty. I don't think he is, to be honest. We've seen him he shut down the playoffs last year, and I don't know how serious that injury was, but he shut that down. Like, he's like, I'm not playing. I'm done. And they were in the Western Conference semifinals at that point, right? And made the Western Conference finals. So I'd be surprised there. But Paul George might come back. Reggie Jackson's playing really well. Zubac and Hartenstein randomly is like a big, quite literally a big, but a good, solid set of bigs. Can the Clippers make some noise in the West? I think that's where we want to go with this. Can this team make some noise in the West? Because the West right now seems wide open outside of the top 2 or 3 teams.
I think they can. Just because there's a real good chance they play Memphis in the first round, since Memphis has been really hot and Golden State's faltered without Draymond. If they win that first playing game against Minnesota, which is looking like how it's going to line up because the Lakers and Pelicans are so far below them, standings-wise, and they play Memphis, they could win, and Paul George comes back because he's expected to come back before the end of the season. That could really give Memphis a lot of fits. It would be really tough luck for Memphis after the great seasons they've had.
Right.
It's funny because...
And it's like, we have to put respect on Ty Lue's name. Like, he's like a really good NBA coach. He's not just a guy who got a chip because of LeBron. Like, he
checked LeBron in the playoffs in allegedly checked LeBron in, saying like, I got this. Here's what I'll say about the Clippers. Their full strength team, which looking now goes like, I'm talking about guys like Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. Like, that is like the Raptors team that won the championship on steroids. Like, you have so many wings who can shoot and defend the heck out of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have maybe some. I know their guards seem to kind of be like up and down type players. I don't have a ton of confidence in Kennard, Terrence Mann, those type guys. I don't have like a ton of confidence, even though we've seen clearly either of those guys they have won playoff games for the Clippers in the past. So I would say if they were fully healthy going into the playoffs, yes. Or if they were going to be fully healthy, and they aren't right now, I would say yes. With the looming question mark of Kawhi, ultimately, they can't get past the first round, or they can't get past the second round. They can get to the second round, can't get past it, in my opinion, in the Western Conference without having Kawhi Leonard. So that'll really be kind of what sways it, in my opinion.
I think one thing to remember, though, not that I think you're wrong, is that without Kawhi, they went to the Western Conference Finals, and I know we obviously got him through that first round, and I think he played 2 games in the second round, possibly 3. And we're competitive against the Suns. I think they lost that series 4-2. Really had a shot, honestly, to maybe force a Game 7. And who knows, at that point, they would have had all the momentum in the series. What will hurt them, though, is Norman Powell fractured that toe. Norman Powell, for people who aren't paying attention, was having a great season in Portland and then gets traded. And I think 3 games averaged 21 for the Clippers, like very underrated piece that could have fit with Paul George. He's out indefinitely, so maybe you are right going towards the playoffs here. But I think they could really surprise some teams, right? A term I used in the big boards when talking about the NFL playoffs is I said these teams could disrupt the playoff. These teams can disrupt the playoffs, and I said the Bengals and the 49ers, and we saw what happened with both of them in these NFL playoffs. That was a good
call. That was a good call. We got to go back and grab that.
That actually was a good call. Yeah, it's in the big board video. You can check me on that on the YouTube page. I'm not ready to put that label on the Clippers yet, But by the time we get to playoff time, this team can get to a point where I think they could disrupt the Western Conference playoffs. The problem is with the Warriors and the Suns at the top, is what % shot do you think they could knock them off? Because I think it's so top heavy in the West.
Yeah, if I had to go with my rankings, or I guess order of power in the Western Conference right now, I would put them. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but like they do deserve. They're the 8th seed right now. I would say all 7 teams above them, except for maybe the Timberwolves. I'd take them over the Timberwolves just because of experience. But the Nuggets, Mavericks, Jazz, Warriors, Grizzlies, and Suns, I would favor over them. In a 7-game series, they could probably beat all but like 1 or 2 of those teams. So
hey, don't let the Clippers face the Mavs again.
Right. Like the Mavericks don't want to see that. Right. Mavericks don't want to see that.
No.
Right. All right, Matt, anything on the Clippers? You ready to move on?
I just think, like Jake was saying, even with Paul George coming back, they wouldn't have the best player in any of a series against anyone above Minnesota. Because Jokic is better. I'd take Donovan Mitchell. I'd take Chris Paul. I'd take Curry. I'd take John Morant at this point. So I think they could scare Memphis, but as making like an actual run, that I don't think that's possible at all, unless Kawhi miraculously comes back.
All right, so we're going to move to the last thing people aren't talking about. I'm going to change it a bit here from what we have in the script, and that's just going to be that the Boston Celtics are legitimate in the Eastern Conference. And I'm not talking about just a good team. I think they're legitimate contenders, and people are starting to wake up to this. But you couldn't say this a month and a half ago. I mean, this team's 16-4 in their last 20 games. Tatum just dropped a 54 piece, right? We talked about how the Derek White trade might impact them. We talked about these other auxiliary pieces, but I think they've come back together, and I would label them as legit Eastern Conference contenders and a team to be scared of. Do you guys, is that your kind of synopsis to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the way the bracket's going to break down for them could be very favorable to them. If they stay the 4-5 and Chicago's there, I think they beat Chicago in the first round. And then I think they match up decently against Miami. That's not a horrible matchup. I still favor Miami, but they've got a shot. And that could be Brooklyn also, depending on how everything. And
too early to tell.
Yeah, too early to tell. But they're again, they lead the East in point differential, which just shows that they were underperforming for so long, their record. And with point differential, usually it eventually evens itself out, and it has. And you also have to factor in that they were learning how to play with a new coach this year with Ime Udoka. And that has some growing pains along with it. And it really looks like they sorted them out.
Yeah, I think you have to take them seriously, and that's not something that I would have said in the beginning of the year. They are 3rd in 3-point percentage allowed, 1st in 2-point percentage allowed, 1st all-around field goal percentage allowed. As you said, number 1 defense right now in the NBA. They have a lot of guys who can play. Robert Williams is taking a step forward. He's been a phenomenal.
Lord.
Yeah, he is like a new age. You remember when like Clint Capella was on Houston and just like blowing up the PER numbers? Like,
yeah, but I want to talk about the difference, because usually DeAndre Jordan did the same thing with the Clippers. Usually it's because they have an elite guard feeding them the ball in these situations. And the Celtics don't have that. They don't have a Hall of Fame level guard feeding them the ball.
They have 2 borderline. I'm not going to call. You can't call Brown or Tatum Hall of Fame yet. I mean, maybe.
No, but they're not passers.
Calm down.
No, I know, but
they got Peyton Pritchard, Matt.
No, they don't have a true guard, and Derek White is definitely a big leap in that. It's probably the first iteration of a guard who is good on this team that doesn't need the ball in their hands and isn't a scorer. You look at what they tried to do with IT, what they tried to do with Kyrie, what they tried to do with Kemba Walker. All that didn't work. And now I do think they're trying to go with a little bit more of a defensive, physical front backcourt. Marcus Smart and Derek White certainly achieve that. So they're definitely live. Would I put them or pick them ahead of the top 3 or 4 teams in the East? No. Like, I think that they're a pretty clear outside looking in terms of like a tier-based ranking goes. But crazy. Look, there's crazier things that could happen. They're a very experienced team. And as you said, they're playing very hot right now.
See, I actually, so I would take them above the Bulls above them. And I think the Celtics are one of those teams that matches up well, just the way they play basketball. They good size, good athleticism. I think they're really fine against any team. I would argue that a series against the Bucks would be close. I would argue a series against the Sixers would be close, and the Heat would be close. Like I think this team's right up there with those top teams.
Well, look, you can get to eye level with any team when you play hard defensively.
Right.
And, I'm not going to come in and say, hey, Giannis would. They don't have anyone to stop Giannis. They don't have anyone to stop Joel, because it truly is a team effort. And yeah, they play. I think they'll end up running into the same old thing that we always see with Boston, where there's just not enough cohesion between Brown and Tatum in the end. But it'll be really interesting to watch play out. I'm glad that there's another kind of leg in this Eastern Conference.
I think it's telling that Tatum had to score 54 for them to beat Brooklyn. Like, that's not going to happen all the time.
See, I'm not putting too much stock in the regular season games. So,
I think I think that was Katie's back, national television. I'm going to show you how good I am. Then Tatum kind of stole the spotlight, and I think Durant put up like a high effort performance, and Tatum I just think that it's not feasible long term for like in a long drawn out series that Tatum can continue to be that good.
See, I see that's actually where I want to go with the Celtics. I think we've been seeing Jason Tatum now gain this playoff experience over the years. He's been there every single year. He's played now 50 career playoff games. And last year was the first round bounce, but they had to play Brooklyn in the first round. And in that series, Tatum gave him a 50 ball and a 40 ball. I mean, I think Tatum now has gained this experience with this team, and it's been around the same guys. He feels comfortable there to where a spot in the playoffs. I think this is the year we might see Tatum take that next step. I've been really impressed with him these past couple of years, from sweeping the Sixers in the bubble to last year, even losing to Brooklyn, but Brooklyn was the super team last year that everyone thought was coming out of the East.
They were 500 last year, the Celtics.
Right, but I'm talking playoffs.
Epic failure.
But I'm talking, but this year they're going to be above 500, and they're going to be a playoff team. I think this is the year it might come together for the Celtics, and that doesn't mean championship for them, but this is one team I'm pretty high on. And shout out to James, by the way, who pointed this out like 4 months ago.
Here's my issue with that and Jason Tatum taking the step forward, because he is a star in the league right now. I think no one would argue Jason Tatum is a star.
Right.
The tier above that is superstar, and every single guy except for maybe like Steph Curry, I don't know if I could think of another one, in that superstar category is able to score at a really high level, be the engine on the team's offense, and then also be able to stop the other team's best player. That's what Jason Tatum is missing. If you could tell me Jason Tatum is on both ends going to get the better of his matchup all throughout the series, which whether it be KD, Giannis, whoever he won't be put on Giannis, but whoever he ends up against, like, he has to be able to prevent them from getting their average, and I don't think he's able to do that right now, and that's their issue.
Right.
He's almost like a modern day Carmelo.
Yeah.
Like, he's like prime
Very
Carmelo. Everything good about Carmelo and everything not so great about Carmelo all rolled up into one package.
But the Celtics as a whole have addressed that. They have Marcus Smart. He's been there. They just brought in Derek White. If there's one thing great about Derek White's game, it's his defense. They brought Baines back, someone familiar that, without being, not that he's an all top defender, but if it wasn't for defense, Aaron Baines isn't in the league, right? So I think that the stuff around that, they've kind of made their team better around them in that sense.
Did JJ Redick not teach you a lesson, Kyle? In the playoffs, they will hunt you to the bitter end if there is a matchup on the floor that they think they can exploit. Tatum's specifically in that series against Philadelphia, where he came out as a rookie, they literally were running motions every single time down the floor so that the end result would be ISO Jason Tatum against JJ Redick. So there's only so much you could do to hide.
that
He's
terrible.
No, he's not. I don't want to make that comparison. He's not, but but that's just what
I
I
don't
was.
think he's that terrible at defense, and not even comparatively, just objectively. I don't think he's terrible defender.
Objectively, I think he's
we
not
just
good
talked
enough
about
to be a
how the
superstar.
Celtics, and we just talked about how the Celtics are the best defensive team in the NBA. So I mean,
he's part of that,
yeah,
but he's not. He's not like a big reason. I wouldn't even call him a top 3 reason.
All right.
Maybe it's 4
well,
reasons,
we've started the conversations. Maybe the last one at the end is the one that's for episodes to come. But those are the things we got to keep talking about here in the NBA. And talking about things people were talking about, we're going to move to the second segment, and that's Speaking Facts, one of our favorites here, of course. We're going to give you a quote from the NBA landscape, whether it's the media, whether it's a player, a coach, you know how this works. And we're just going to straight up tell you, is this person speaking facts, or are they just completely wrong with this one? And we'll start with Stephen A. Smith. I mean, how could we not? He tends to make his way, Mr. 30,000 takes a year. And he said something on First Take this week that we've kind of been talking about with some of these other teams recently or previously in the episode, but haven't really keyed in on these two teams. He said, I respect what I'm seeing from the Philadelphia 76ers, but the Milwaukee Bucks are the team to beat in the East. Matt, is Stephen A. Smith speaking facts?
Yes and no. I'm kind of doing a cop-out. They're the defending champions. They have arguably the best player in the NBA who's proved it in the playoffs with Giannis. But I gotta be Homer here, and I gotta say it's the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers offense with Embiid and Harden is unguardable in every, and I know it's been 5 games, but they've shared the court for 262 possessions, and they're in the 100th percentile in points per 100 possessions, 100th percentile effective field goal percentage, and 100th percentile in free throw rate.
That's pretty good.
The only thing they're kind of not, their rebounding has kind of faltered a little bit, but that's just learning where people get position on the floor kind of thing. Harden's always been a really good guard rebounder, and Embiid's a really good rebounder too. So I just think it's such a perfect meld of Hall of Fame talent, and no other duo in the East or the NBA has something that's that perfect of a fit. And I think that makes Philadelphia the team to beat in the East and in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can't say he's not speaking facts. Like, they're literally the defending champions. For that reason, I don't think it's that big of a take. For all the reasons Matt said, I think you could make the case the Sixers are the most dangerous team to go up against if you are. And maybe that's counterintuitive, but I don't know if that makes them the team to beat. The way I view it is because Milwaukee, they won the championship. They've retained the core of their team, and they're almost exactly the same team. Giannis is the same guy. Nothing really has changed.
They're coasting a bit, Milwaukee.
Now they're probably coasting. So for all those reasons, I think they're probably still the team to beat, but Philly very dangerous.
Yeah. Well. And Bobby Portis has taken a step up, which has been refreshing to see. Not just a hit or miss guy now a full rotational piece starting for them now, where he's been a bench guy. I'm going to say Stephen A. Smith is not speaking facts. I get they're the defending champions, but Giannis was a back-to-back MVP, and no one was zoning in on him in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Like, oh, we got to get Giannis. We got to beat this guy, right? No one was scared of him in the playoffs, and they did it once. Yeah, that's great. The team to beat in the East is still the Miami Heat. They're their number 1 team in the East. I'm sorry. They were in the finals 2 years ago. We talked about them earlier in this episode. They've been the number 1 seed basically all season through injuries. Start playing Gabe Vincent and Yerk Steven and however you say his name. It hasn't mattered. And I'm not going to say it's a team to beat that the team's going to eye in on when they hit the playoffs. Like, we got to beat the Heat to get through the East, because that's not really how any team's going to look at these playoffs, because I really think the East is so competitive right now, and I think the Eastern playoffs is going to be fun to watch. But I think if you have to pick one team who's been the most dominant this season, who's playing the best basketball all the way through the season, it's the Miami Heat. So to me, I don't think there is, quote unquote, a team to beat in the East, where maybe in the West you can say, hey, the Suns are the team to beat, where, hey, the Warriors are the team to beat. I don't think that we have that in the East. But if there's one team to make this take about, Stephen A., it has to be the Miami Heat, in my opinion.
Fair. That's fair. I can't.
I just can't. I don't think you have a top 5 player in the conference, I can't call you the team to beat. That's
I would say Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player in the conference.
Harden, Embiid, Giannis, Durant, and
Jimmy Butler.
I could put him 5. I could put him 5.
You take him over Tatum?
Yeah,
it's close.
You have to.
Terry
Rozier's in the East, though.
Terry Rozier, number 5.
Terry
I forgot
Rozier
about
is in
Terry
the
Rozier.
East.
He had a 30-piece against Brooklyn the other night.
Hey, he's a 30-piece every night. He's actually on a tear right now, but that's for another episode, man. I hope they make the playoffs. For the second speaking facts point, Jake, you want to take this one? I think you got the IG post up right now.
I got into it a little bit with our buddy Max Gordon of Brainiac Hoops. Obviously, a very contentious battle for MVP going on right now between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, both phenomenal players. And maybe there will come a time where on this show we will go in depth about both cases towards the end of the year. But he had a post that caught my eye that said, because usually, Jokic, you could probably make the argument he might be a better player offensively than Joel Embiid just because of his distribution. I've never heard anyone say he's a better defender until our guy Brainiac Hoops, go follow him on Insta, follow us on Insta as well while you're at it, said it has always been Jokic greater sign Embiid. The biggest difference is Jokic's ability to play 1 through 5 on offense and defend 1 through 5 on the other end. As if that is something that Joel can't do. So naturally, being that we're straight,
I'd love to see Jokic try to guard Harden in an NBA Finals game.
It would be pretty funny, right? It would be like the one Rudy Gobert where he's like dancing with Steph Curry out on the perimeter. So I had to dig into the statistics. This is what we do. I was on Instagram, got to keep up with the brand, so I fired back. Their percentages when defending ISOs, because his contention was 1 through 5. Embiid is not as good defending as Jokic. And just looking at ISOs, Embiid is in the 94th percentile with 0.54 points per play against isolations. Jokic, on the other hand, is 0.91 points per play, which puts him in the 46th percentile. He literally is a below average defender against isolation. So I think I know. I have some other stats as well, but I'll kick it to you guys before we go too deep. Is he speaking facts here? Is Max Gordon, our guy Brainiac Hoops, speaking facts?
No. I said last year, and I'll say this year, Nikola Jokic is the best offensive player in the NBA.
Yeah.
I still think that. He is...
Whoa. All right, you can go. You can go.
Yeah, he averages like 25 points, 12 assists, and he's shooting like 56% from the field. I know Sixers Twitter likes to make fun of him because Nuggets fan call him one of the greatest of all time. He's really, really good, but if you only look at advanced stats and you say, oh, he's better than Larry Bird, which was a poll that came out. It's a blind thing, and
stats are a heck of a drug.
Yeah, yeah, they're good in moderation, and I know you can't just look at a spreadsheet and say he's better. Jokic is a phenomenal player. Him and Embiid are essentially, if you're being completely objective about it, it's a tie, and it's almost personal preference at this point. But saying he's a better defender is just. What are we talking about?
It's a bridge too far. It's a bridge too far.
If you look at advanced defensive stats, which Daryl Morey has said are garbage, the available advanced defensive metrics are garbage. And this is Daryl Morey, the king of advanced stats in the NBA. And it shows he's better than Giannis and Embiid in every major advanced defensive stat. That means, the stat's wrong. You guys say, oh, look at this. Robert Williams is leading the Celtics in win shares. Is he the best player on the Celtics? No. But it's just it's a nice thing to say, oh, wow, he really is a really quality player for them. And people are just going way too far. And instead of just viewing it as oh, he's improved as a defender, which Jokic has. But he's not better than Joel Embiid.
Before you go, Jake, no, he's not speaking facts, Bernie. I'm sorry, Max. You're not speaking facts. Joel Embiid might be the best defensive center in the league. I know we hate on Gobert on this show. If you want to say Gobert, that's completely fine. You completely have a point for that. But if not, I think Joel is a top 3, top 5, no doubt, center defensively in the league. No one regards Nikola Jokic as that. So I think that's wrong. I also think Matt's not speaking facts that Jokic is the best offensive player in the league. It's still Kevin Durant. It's not close to me. We just talk about how stats are like crazy and people want to point out, oh, he's a playmaker. He is a playmaker, but I mean, you can't look at the number of his assists per game when his highest games and assists per game are all losses. He has the Nuggets have a losing record when Jokic has 11 or more assists. I mean, he's a product of everything has to run through him, right? But to the defensive thing, no, he's not speaking facts. Embiid's better.
It's what we talked about with Luka. We're like, yeah, get your usage in, dude. You're going to OT, going 44, 10, and 10 with 4 blocks and 3 steals to beat the Pelicans. To beat the Pelicans, you have to go to OT, like, and put up this crazy line. Like, there used to be a day where MVP, your team actually had to be good to win that award. I mean, the Nuggets are okay. They're a playoff team, but they're on the fringe of the play-in. And to go after the defense, as you said, there aren't really a ton of really reliable defensive metrics. I like to look at, I think points per play is actually a really good indicator because you can kind of single out play types and scenarios in which these players are, the result is a direct, I guess, or the result of the play is directly impacted by their skill versus like a defensive rating, which Jokic leads, defensive win shares, Jokic leads. That's all kind of team-based. When you look at their points per play when guarding pick-and-roll ball handlers, Joel is in the 87th percentile, while Jokic is in the 72nd percentile. Again, Embiid pretty market advantage. And the ultimate, this should end the conversation here, statistic. Against post-ups, both being the best, their claim for the best center in the league, Embiid or Jokic, Embiid, points per play against post-ups, 71st percentile. Nikola Jokic against post-ups is in the 23rd percentile in the NBA. I don't have it up in front of me right now. I would bet you that would probably be like last on his team in terms of like points per play against post-ups. Scoring frequency when he's posted up of 56%. Don't ever mention Jokic's name next to Embiid when we're talking defense ever again. That's all I have to say.
As a center, you didn't mention, but as a center, Max Gordon's point was 1 through 5. He ain't even a better at his own position,
right?
Guarding. So, all right, we'll move on. That's all we have for speaking facts. Kept it quick, but that was fun. Last thing we got to hit on is the NFL. We've seen, I know it's the off season. We've seen some trades. Before we get into it, I mentioned at the top of the show, our guy Matt Valavinos and James Jackson are going to be on the YouTube. That video will come out Friday. Straight Facts on YouTube. Head over there, subscribe as you haven't, and they're going to full break down these quarterbacks.
You'll want to see that because Matt V is having a meltdown on Twitter right now.
About Wentz?
Yeah. Matt V, Washington Commanders football fan, I should add in if you don't remember Matt Valavinos. That actually will be fun. I might actually want to hop in that video now. But they're going to give us a full breakdown of all the quarterback moves. I want some quick reactions out of you two here. So we'll start with the first one. That was Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos, the full trade. Russell Wilson in the 4th round pick to the Seahawks for 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris. Jake, quick reaction. What are we looking at here in the Seahawks-Broncos trade?
I would say we're looking at a solid 10 to 25 years grand larceny. This is a big-time haul for the Broncos. This is a win for the Broncos. This is like a smash home run win for the Broncos because we've talked about really for the past 2 years, their offense, you can read off the weapons just in the receiving core. Sutton, Judy, Tim Patrick, very slept on. KJ Hamler can make some noise out of the slot. You have Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, obviously probably not coming back to the team, but you can't rule him out. And now you add in Russell Wilson into the perfect, like the offenses where he dominated in Seattle. He was able to rely on the run, and then when you accounted for the run, punished you through the air with play action, going deep. He's got a ton of guys to do that now. And they really, like, realistically, 2 first, 2 second, okay, that has some weight to it. But, like, Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant's a good player, young player, but, like, those guys are replaceable. There's only a couple Russell Wilsons running around in the league, and I think the Broncos did very well to snag him.
Before you go, Matt, I'm actually opposite of you here, Jake. And I'm not anti-Broncos. I get why they did it. I think bringing Russell or they think they're a winner, think they're a contender. I tend to believe that too. I was even high on them this year. I think the Broncos did, make a good deal. They got Russell Wilson. That makes complete sense with the points you made. Not to mention their defense was 3rd in the league last year in points against them. But I think the Seahawks got back a franchise-changing hole. They made the decision. It's time to rebuild. 2 first-round picks,
more power to
2
them.
second-round picks, a starting tight end who also, by the way, was a first-round pick not too many years ago. I mean, I think that the move the Seahawks made, because as an Eagles fan, there was outside shot of getting Russ. I never really agreed with it, but there was no shot I would have given up that much for Russell Wilson. Like, I think the Seahawks got a large hole back in return, and it kind of puts the Broncos on a clock now, because if this doesn't work out, if Russell Wilson goes 9-8, squeaks in as a 6 seed wild card and gets bounced first round and does the same thing again next year, this is a robbery the other way, and it really can't go wrong for the Seahawks.
If they're bad, right, with all those picks.
I think, honestly, it's not a lose-lose, but it's
not a lose-lose.
I don't think there's a winner, because I don't think the Seahawks got enough back, honestly. Russell Wilson is unbelievable. Wow. And I just think the AFC is too good. For the Broncos are going to be really good.
That's the thing,
but the Chiefs are going to be really good. The Chargers are going to be really good. The Raiders made the playoffs last year. The Bengals made the Super Bowl. The Bills. It's just like there's so many teams, and like I get you have to do that if you're trying to compete. When there's a million great quarterbacks around you, you have to make that move. But I don't think the Seahawks got enough back, and I don't see this resulting in deep playoff runs for Denver.
Yeah,
I just Seahawks got enough back.
I would always, as a fan, feel better about trading a bunch of unknown commodities for a known commodity, and that's exactly what the Broncos did.
Yeah. See, I think first-round picks in the NFL are so crucial, and it's proven to be like the hit rate on them is insane. It's not like the NBA where after the first 14 you have to find a gem. Like the NFL, like first rounders are so important. You get 2 of those in 2 seconds that you can get going. I don't know.
I've seen first
unless
round
you're
picks
Howie Roseman drafting a skill position player
in crazy ways. There's trust me, it's not just Howie Roseman, dude. You ask Raider fans how their draft history has gone. Not a fun time.
Yeah, bring that up. All right, I'm asking for quick reactions so we can move on after that. Matt and James, I'm sure will get into that. We're gonna move to the other one that broke today. Carson Wentz, 3 former Eagles fans here. Just 1 year ago, he was on our roster. It happened last spring. He got traded, but the Washington Commanders traded for Carson Wentz. They also got a 2nd-round pick back. The Colts also got a 2nd-round pick back. Just a little bit of pick swap there. I think they're off like 5 picks and 2 third-round picks. 1 can become a 2nd-rounder if Carson Wentz plays 70% of snaps. So, I mean, you have to assume now, obviously, Carson Wentz is the quarterback of Washington now. I mean,
I guess.
You listen to Washington fans, and they just want somewhat of a competent quarterback. 1, did they even get that? And 2, does this work? I don't know.
They got a competent quarterback.
Yeah,
they got a wacky competent quarterback, but they got a competent quarterback. Wentz is okay. People look at like the end of just the Jaguars game and act like he played like that the whole season. He's clearly he's a best quarterback they've had since Kirk Cousins. Might be better than Kirk Cousins. It's iffy.
Quite the bar being set there.
I know, but they got better. The contract's rough. The Colts, it seemed like that situation really deteriorated, and I don't know what the Colts do. Do they get Jimmy G now? Washington got a little better, and I don't think it's a big risk for them either. So I actually don't hate it from a Washington point of view.
I don't hate
the Colts,
either.
This is just trying to get as much out of a failed idea as possible.
You guys know who won this trade, though, right?
Eagles?
The Eagles. We got a first and a third back, and they just traded 2/3 for him.
And we get to play against Carson Wentz twice a year. It's a gift that keeps on giving. Really quick on Wentz. I think you would have gotten the same production out of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know if he's done. I know he had the hip thing. There's no reason Ryan Fitzpatrick can't give you a 9-win season. He could do it.
I think there's more upside with Carson Wentz, though, just thinking of past. There's still question marks on who is he, who can he become. I mean, he's shown flashes even going like last season, and that was a run-heavy team. Like with more opportunities to be had, I could see Wentz having a not breakout year, but a certain uptick in production that he's had.
I mean, you guys know I have the list. Can he win it or can't he win it? He's not on it. He's not on the list of can win it. Carson Wentz is not. So,
which is fair.
I don't think they gave up a ton for him. I just wonder kind of what the Colts are going to do, but I'm sure they have a plan. So
good. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. So that was our quick recap of the NFL trades. We didn't want to go too deep in here because we know James and Matt V got us covered. Again, that video is out Friday on the Straight Facts YouTube channel. Make sure you check that one out. We're going to get into real quick winners and losers here because we got to bring one thing up. Quick loser, Calvin Ridley. That was an interesting headline. You don't see that much. Obviously, Calvin Ridley got caught gambling, I guess, back in November, just officially got sanctioned out for a season. The entire season, Calvin Ridley be out. Of course, he had a mental health thing that took him out before that even happened. So this is a rough one. I just want a reaction here to the Calvin Ridley news.
Well, obviously, I'm in the betting space working for BetQL. Like the really volatile thing is, so obviously you're not going to challenge the mental health diagnosis or him saying, I need time. Not going to. However, it is interesting that the bets that he placed, from what I read, were on the Falcons to perform poorly, be under 500. Was what I saw that he bet on, which goes that's rigging. Like that is similar to what happened with the Black Sox in the World Series. Like that is like I would say like worst case scenario in terms of the betting industry, how they want to be viewed. This is not a good thing. Especially with the NFL's openness. And that's how they actually found out about him doing it, is through one of the betting partners that's partnered with the NFL, pass along this information. So I don't think he made his case any better by going out and tweeting like it was only $1,500. It wasn't that much. Like, dude, why can't just stay off Twitter?
Yeah,
and you'll end up somewhere.
I do want to check people real quick, Matt. I do want to check people though, because you did mention the Black Sox. People tend to go to extremes in this day and age. Calvin Ridley putting $1,500 on a like parlay, gamble, whatever. And when, first of all, gambling is just pushed to the absolute max right now. Turn on any TV channel, you see it. It's not even close to the equivalent of shoeless Joe Jackson and the Black Sox in 1919. Like, I want to push back on people going to the extremes here. Not that you were making that like full comparison, but like the public reaction on Twitter is just a little too much.
It's something that you need to have a full hard line, no tolerance, at least a season suspension policy anytime that happens, just to protect the game from becoming something like, honestly, like boxing, where there's rigged fights all the time.
Right. Yeah. That's just where the interest is. Obviously, insider information, all that. I do want to say though, if they only gave him a 6-game suspension, does that change anything? I think it could have been 6.
I think you have to be pretty harsh with like, this is a zero tolerance.
You think you need to hold to that standard?
Because you're right. And by the way, I want to fact check myself. I looked it up. It's not confirmed that he bet on Falcon win total unders. It said 3 parlays. I don't know what the contents of those parlays were, I think, but in my opinion, that is kind of like a slippery slope where you don't drop the hammer on this guy, and then maybe you do have a player. You know, if you get a player like maybe not as high profile as Nick Foles, but you come in a playoff game and you're in a big position and you're making less than $1 million per year, and I could fade my team and put my year's salary on it and make myself good for life. You know, that's a scenario that if you're the NFL, you kind of open yourself up to if you don't put the hammer down on Ridley. But I don't think it's the end of the world. It just has to be dealt with.
That's a great point. That's a perfect point right there. I think that sums it up. And then one quick winner, and you can really have the loser on the other side, but winner, the University of North Carolina. and they will have that on Duke fans forever. They beat they beat Coach
They
K in his
crushed
last
them,
game at
right?
Cameron Indoor.
Yeah.
What's up?
It was like a blowout, wasn't it? Like they blew
No,
them out, or is that a couple games before that?
No, it was a close game.
Okay.
But
They
the last
turned into a
game,
blowout at the end. They won by 13.
right? But it was a
Yeah.
hard fought game. But just being a Duke fan with the most storied rivalry, maybe in all of college sports, definitely in college basketball, to have that as the upper hand for the rest of your life, it must feel awesome to be a UNC fan right now.
I love that it happened. I don't like either team, but it was just so great to that after all this, like, just butt kissing of Coach K, and then he loses to his arch rival, and this Duke fans paid $5,000 a ticket to see it happen. It was just great.
Yeah, I mean, and how about like ESPN? Like before it all happened, they're planning a pregame and a postgame. Like, you could lose this game, right, Coach K? Like, because did you see the postgame? He didn't want to be out there.
I didn't see I didn't see much of it, but
it was literally him listening to people talk about him for 30 minutes, and everyone stayed just for him to give like a speech, and he didn't want to be there. They lost the game.
Yeah, he's always been a little overrated in my opinion. Like, you stick me at Duke, I think I might accumulate a few championships with the big blue and white logo on me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Well, he created the brand. They weren't a huge college basketball team until he got there.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, when Jake said it, we knew it wasn't true. I mean, all right. Well, that is all the time we have here at Straight Facts, but we can still get some shots up at the buzzer. Anyone got one for me?
Yeah, I got a plug. So since my dad retired, he's been part of this charity to help out with childhood leukemia. And there's actually going to be they call it the Big Climb. And it's a charity event where you get to basically climb. It's like a little like walk/run of the link. So you get to like walk up the stadium, walk down, go in the locker room. And it's on May 14th. And if you register before March 14th, so that's coming up, there's no registration fee. And I'll read the plug that they sent me. So do you want to see Lincoln Financial Field through a player's eyes? Join the fight to cure blood cancers and take advantage of an opportunity to experience the home of the Eagles in a very special way. Big Climb Philly is a premier fundraising event held annually by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and this year the event will be held at Lincoln Financial Field on May 14th. Climb the stadium stairs, run through the player tunnels, and the field while raising critical funds for life-saving research and patient care. Participate as a team of friends, family, co-workers, or as an individual. Registration is open until the day of the event and free before March 14th, so register today at www.bigclimb.org/Philly.
www.bigclimb.org/Philly. Matt, that's awesome.
Yep.
Go sign up, guys. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
before March 14th. If you don't do it before then, you have to pay a registration fee.
We'll push out the link on social media after the show. But yeah, that is an awesome cause, Matt.
Jake, what do you got at the buzzer?
Nothing much. I'm now becoming like almost. I don't know if you guys have ever like drank too much caffeine, but have you ever just felt like really like twitchy, itchy, like almost you just can't sit still sort of caffeine feeling? That is what I'm enduring pretty much since James Harden's arrival, riding out these Maxi Most Improved tickets, because it's not going to happen. He's not going to win Most Improved Player, but he's at this point like proving that he could realistically be actually the most improved player this year. He just won't win it, like, because of narrative. You look at like points per game, assists per game, obviously his minutes go up, but we don't have to get into the full. Maybe that'll be a YouTube video of why Tyrese Maxey should win most improved player. But it's getting into an uncomfortable zone now.
If you ever, this is going to be one of those things where you're watching a Sixers game with Jake like 6 years from now, and Maxey has a good game, and he's like, he should have been most improved player 2022. Like, I don't know. Like, look at him now.
This is like when Brogdon got the Rookie of the Year over Embiid. I didn't bet on it at the time, but I was just insufferable for like years after the fact, where obviously Embiid's a much better player. He just didn't win the award.
I thought Dario should have won it that year.
Just because the games played. Look, I needed to see one game. This is how many games I needed to see that year to determine Joel Embiid was better than any rookie.
Embiid said Dario should have won it, so that kind of I haven't
That's
really
fair,
thought
right?
about it in a while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all I want to say at the buzzer, we've been pushing the episode. Hit up the YouTube page. We're putting in the work over there. A lot of stuff off the camera. We really enjoy doing this, and we hope you guys enjoy viewing it. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but that was cool. So if you want to see our faces, if you want to see us there, we put a lot of effort in the YouTube channel. That's Straight Facts Podcast on YouTube. But that is all the time we have today for Straight Facts. For my guys, James Jackson at home, for Jake Galley, for Stat Matt Robinson, I'm Kyle Searig. These have been the facts.
Straight up.